In wrapping up session 26, I left out the last question that was relevant to that session, which had to do with sexual energy transfer. I explained my reasons back in that video, and it's time to get into it. Let's go. Sex is one of the most important aspects of this creation, if not the most important aspect. And before I get into the question that I left out in session 26, I want to give my view on a couple of things that I think are important to keep in mind when we talk about sex, because you can see it throughout the whole creation, at least in the way I'm seeing it. And this is separate from the law of one. This is just my view on things to add a little bit more perspective on it. So think about the creation itself. When we go from the most small things we can possibly measure, which is in quantum physics, we talk about quarks, which interestingly we have funny names for it, which is top, bottom, up, down, strange, charm. I believe love is one of them too. So we from there we can even see the human influence on the names that kind of allude to attraction or sex, even if we see it from a naughty perspective too. So there is an attraction for sure at that level. And then we talk about protons and electrons. They are mutually attracted. Then we go on to molecules. They form certain molecules, so certain atoms are attracted to each other, like carbon and hydrogen and oxygen. They are attracted to each other. There is an affinity of them. And molecules do the same things. Certain molecules are have a better affinity with others, and so on. That goes into creating all the organic molecules that we know, which creates life, which starts the process of what we know as sex. But as a fundamental part of the creation, attraction is a very important part. And so we get into what is known for us as sex. And from here, we can now start thinking about conscious beings having a different perspective of sex, which there involves the sexual energy transfer. And I just wanted to emphasize that point just to show that the creation itself is made of sex or attraction in the most fundamental level. And so from this perspective, we can see that it is a fundamental part, like I said, of the whole creation. So again, now we're going to go back to the raw material after that brief introduction of my view of attraction itself and how it interacts in this creation. And we're going to get into the sexual energy transfer. It's very important to keep in mind that we're talking about energy transfer through sexual means and not sex itself. Sex has its own topic, of course, but we're talking about sexual energy transfer. So let's get into the question that Don asked at the end of session 26. And he says, I have a question that the instrument has asked that I would like to ask for the instrument. She says, you speak of various types of energy blockages and transfers, positive and negative, that may take place due to participation in our sexual reproductive complex of actions. She states, please explain these blockages and energy transfers with emphasis on what an individual seeking to be in accordance with the law of one may positively do in this area. Is it possible for you to answer this question? And Ra says, it is partially possible, given the background we have laid. This is properly a more advanced question. Due to the specificity of the question, we may give general answer. The first energy transfer is red ray. It is a random transfer having to do only with your reproductive system. So we're going to go from top to bottom in the energy centers, or chakras as we know them. And the red ray energy transfer is the one from the reproductive system that has to do with procreation. It has to do with bringing a child into beingness. So this is not possible between same sex, and it has to do simply with the reproduction system. As we can see from the introduction that I made, things are possible when two opposite things get together and they create something new. This is why in our biology is only possible to happen between opposite gender, and it's the whole reason why we have this polarity. Male or female, biological male or female is only a manifestation of what the biological chance or the randomness or even the selection, depending on the programming of the soul, if they got into that level, that is manifested here. But every male and female has both, which is a little outside the topic, but just wanted to put that in perspective too, that every male has a 50-50 female and male energy into it, into its own being, and the same with female. So, but the first energy transfer is only possible with a male and a female getting together and possibly having a child, if this happens. So this has to do with the with creating a baby in that way, in the first aspect of what is sexual energy transfer. You can see that from just the body perspective. There will be a energy transfer from the male to the female in that way that it creates this fetus, which is not the baby yet. But biology aside, we'll go now into the other parts, which really has to do with more a conscious type of energy transfer, and it's what we are really interested in. So let's go to that part where Ra says, the orange and yellow ray attempts to have sexual intercourse create, firstly, a blockage if only one entity vibrates in this area, thus causing the entity vibrating sexually in this area to have a never-ending appetite for this activity. What these vibratory levels are seeking is green ray activity. There is the possibility of orange or yellow ray energy transfer, this being polarizing towards the negative, one being seen as object rather than other self, the other seeing itself as plunderer or master of the situation. So now we're talking about true energy transfer between the conscious being, and the reason why I bring conscious is because the first one is random. It has nothing to do with your consciousness. It goes into creating the fetus or the baby eventually, if it goes into full gestation. And that is the only purpose of that energy. Again, with our etheric body, there is a transfer of this energy between the two entities that creates and allows the fetus to form, and then we go up in, of course, that which now we're talking about the orange and yellow ray attempts, which is now outside of the animalistic but still attached to it, the attempt to have sexual intercourse. And they say there is a blockage if only one entity vibrates in this area. So if the other entity is not vibrating in this area, meaning that they're not even seeking green ray activity, so it's purely animalistic, then there would be a never-ending, what do they say? There would be a possible never-ending appetite for this activity. So there would be a sexual drive that is it's insatiable. So it's represented as that because the other entity, whichever it may be, male or female, is looking for this. This may also apply to same sex. I'm not sure, but because it's only seeking the energy of green ray, like they're saying. And this kind of makes sense if you think about it, because when we want to have not just the animalistic, but we're trying to get together with somebody else, we're trying to share this energy. This energy is just love, everything being love and no blockages being there. That's what this energy transfer is looking for. So it's trying to move the energy down from the animal perspective of sex all the way up to green ray. So for the positive being, this means that the orange and yellow ray are seeking the reaching of the heart. So that energy is being moved there. So we're gonna get now into the next level of, which is the heart, but I want to talk about also The other possibility that they're saying of orange and yellow ray energy transfer, there is a possibility of transfer of energy there only if there is a polarizing towards the negative, and they say one being seen as object rather than other self. So if the person or one of the people are seeing themselves as object, then they are allowing themselves to be polarized towards the negative, or at least allowing the other person. This could be, I'm trying to interpret this into the naivety that may happen in, say, men or women that are not seeking that love, that they have a blockage for some reason, and this has to do with a myriad of possibilities, that people may have a blockage in their own red energy and not allowing that seeking of love. Then they may allow the polarization of the other person, as they can't, if they want to polarize towards the negative, as an object. The other seeing itself as plunderer or master of the situation. This is the other possibility. If you're only seeking sex for the sake of having pleasure, for the sake of using the other person for their own gains. Remember, negative polarization has to do with how you perceive other people, how you perceive other selves. If you see them as not other selves and just objects, then this is what's going to happen. And this is all in this play. I can say at this point that the majority, unfortunately, or at least the tendency in our society, I won't say the majority because I really can't say for sure what's happening, with couples and people seeking sexual intercourse, but we can see the society is always trying to keep us at the lowest possible levels, because seeking love through sex is not something that is pervasive in society, and there's always this emotional charge to sex that blocks us at the possession, because possession is also part of what we call jealousy, what we call this can get really deep into the psychology of humans, and we're going to touch that at the end of the video, because I think it's important to talk about this and how many taboos we have about sex and so on. But this is where we are vibrating as a society in general, or at least the tendency. The prominent behavior is towards this type of blockages that don't allow us to move into the heart. So again, there's a lot of possibilities for people to polarize towards the negative and actually create some polarization towards the negative because they are seeking that. I myself have been involved in that throughout my teenagers and part of my adulthood by not even understanding what sex was fundamentally and what was seeking, or what was I seeking, because of the influence of society. So I think we've all have at least been influenced on this, and it's important to keep in mind where we come from and where we're going to, at least where we want to go to. So big emphasis here. Let's move to the next part where Ra says, in mistake, they say in third, which they make fourth, ray, there are two possibilities. Firstly, if both vibrate in third ray, there will be a mutually strengthening energy transfer. The negative, or female as you call it, drawing the energy from the roots of the beingness up through the energy centers, thus being physically revitalized. The positive, or male polarity, as it's deemed in your illusion, finding in this energy transfer an inspiration which satisfies and feeds the spirit portion of the body-mind-spirit complex. There's a pretty good distinction to make here, that they don't say mind-body-spirit complex, which is a very subtle thing that they do when they talk about the human body itself, and they say body-mind-spirit complex in that way. In mind-body-spirit complex, they see the whole of our bodies. We have the astral bodies and all the etheric bodies, so they call all that the mind-body-spirit complex. Here they're talking about the body-mind-spirit complex. Just a very small distinction, but to keep in mind also when they talk about this kind of stuff. So again, what they're saying is that if the two people are vibrating in third ray, meaning that they are in resonance with each other, that they see each other as self and not as other selves, then there is mutually strengthening of energy transfer. This is essentially what we're looking for in this density. We are looking to transfer and vibrate as much as possible in third ray, which is service to self, not service to self. Big mistake. Thank you, Orion. Service to others in this case. So service to others is seeing other people as self. That's what I meant to say. So we're looking at as much as possible, not seeing the other person in orange ray as object, or in third ray having the blockage of seeing the other self as separate from us. And even though there might be a strong energy and love in there, we don't want to see them as other self. We want to see them as self, and thus we can actually give them our energy. And I'll give an example of how this works, at least from my perspective and my own experience. But they're saying that the negative or female, as we call them, they draw the negative or female, as we call them. Again, this is not a what's the term, sexist thing. Negative is associated with females and positives are associated with males. Again, it has nothing to do with our conception of positive or negative. Negative being bad. A magnet has both polarities. I don't think I have to explain this to you guys, but it's still important to emphasize it. So the female draws the energy from the roots of the beingness. Negative polarities coming from the bottom in this case, and drawing from the roots of the beingness up through the energy centers, thus being physically revitalized. It's getting its energy from this source, as the male gives this energy, which is the physical energy. So the female is getting revitalized by the physical aspect of it. And then the positive or male polarity, as its theme in our illusion, finding in this energy transfer an inspiration which satisfies and feeds from the spirit portion. So the female kind of gets this physical energy that's coming from the earth, let's call it, and the male gets revitalized from the spiritual side. So it's a pretty cool thing to know. I did not know this, obviously, when I read it first, and as I read it, it makes more sense because you start having more context over time, and it's really satisfying to read this kind of stuff, as you know, and you understand the energies involved in this, which is really, really interesting. So, all right, so that I think makes sense. Again, this is only if both entities are vibrating in third ray, seeing each other as self and not as separate, or other self being separateness in this case. So let's move to the next part, where it says, thus both being polarized and releasing the excess of that which each has in abundance by nature of intelligent energy. That is, negative, intuitive, positive, physical energies, as you may call them. This energy transfer being blocked only if one or both entities have fear of possession, of being possessed, or desiring possession, or desiring being possessed. That's a little tongue twister there. So again, let's read it. Thus, both being polarized and releasing excess of that which each has in abundance. The male has an abundance of physical energy. The female, or negative, has abundance of spiritual energy. And this is only blocked if one of them is being, let's read it. This energy transfer being blocked only if one or both entities have fear of possession. So fear of possession would be perhaps a trauma or a some sort of experience that makes the other or the person feel some sort of fear of being possessed or possess the other. We can possibly imagine a couple of scenarios here, but in any case, it's just fear of possession. We shouldn't fear that we're going to be possessed, nor that we're going to possess anybody. This may also be some third to fourth energy blockage there, as being afraid of being possessed by the other person, or possessing the other person, meaning that you may fear that you're going to develop some sort of what we call jealousy, which is only the fear of losing something from the other person. You cannot lose yourself in that way. And if you see the other person as yourself, you're never losing anything. Any interaction with other self is always a gift. It's a blessing. So even when you find somebody on the street outside of sexual energy transfer, it's a gift that you can talk to anybody. Doesn't matter who it is. It's a real gift to be able to communicate between each others, and we're seeing each other as gods, equal gods, not the external gods. Yahweh, go away. The old Yahweh, the one, the nasty one. So let's move to the next one, where they say, the other green ray possibility is that one entity offering green ray energy, the other not offering energy of the universal love energy, this resulting in a blockage of energy for the one not green ray, thus increasing frustration or appetite, the green ray being polarizing slightly towards service to others. So this is a possibility where one of the beings is vibrating in green ray, so it has universal love, it's given all its love, and the other one has a blockage of some sort, and there is no offering of that green ray. So there is a little blockage, that, or a big blockage. And again, the same thing happens because the other person who has a blockage, say in the yellow ray, then they will have the same thing as before. If this seeking does not reach the heart, then there will be a never-ending appetite for this activity, for sex. And that's because we are seeking love. We're seeking, that's what a lot of people are seeing. And I can see this in so many examples of people that I have seen, even in myself, like I said, that there is you're seeking love. What you're looking for in sex is love, the mutual exchange of this energy, and of course the transfer itself. So if there is a blockage there would be the insatiable looking for sex in this way. So I think that covers it. And the other person is slightly polarized towards the positive because service to others. The other is trying to give love, but it's not being fully exchanged, if you will. So we go now to the next, where Ra says, the Blu-ray energy transfer is somewhat rare among your people at this time, but is of great aid due to energy transfers involved in becoming able to express the self without reservation or fear. The indigo ray transfer is extremely rare among your people. This is the sacramental portion of the body complex whereby contact be made through the violet ray with intelligent infinity. Okay, so I'm going to throw out my speculation / interpretation of this because, first of all, let's take a step back from sex and look at the blue ray, which is expression of the self. And then what that means is the true expression of self without any fear of judgment, without any fear of anything that is your own beingness. I mean, you can get into the blue ray of expression without with any sort of blockages. It just makes no sense. So in sex, or in the energy transfer of sex, to me this goes into how you express yourself to the other being, to the other person. If you have any blockage about your own self, which is identity down here in the orange ray, and you don't want to express that, you won't be able to have this energy transfer because there's something that you're hiding, there's something that you are keeping to yourself for some sort of fear, which again, fear is an illusion, but we can get into that for sure, and blocking this energy transfer. That's why they say that it's somewhat rare among your people, because honesty is something that unfortunately is not prevalent in our society. And this is not to judge anybody that we're dishonest people, it's just that it's really hard to accept ourselves. This is why accepting the self is so crucial for us to vibrate at the spiritual level, which is the top chakras. If we have any blockage there and we cannot be honest with ourselves mostly, then we cannot vibrate here, and then won't be any energy transfer. So they say the indigo ray transfer is extremely rare among your people. This is the sacramental portion of the body complex whereby contact may be made through the violet ray with intelligent infinity. Now, for this evokes the idea of tantric sex, which is a play of the bodies between two people and moving these energies with very special techniques of breathing, movement, positions, etc. And this allows the energy to be moved in such a way, of course, having no blockages. You cannot have any blockage from bottom to top to expression of self. This is like a merging of two people getting together. And it's interesting because you can see the parallel here. In the indigo ray in 6th density, we merge positive and negative. They cannot exist. There is no polarity. Where Ra is from, coincidentally or synchronistically, depending on how you want to see it, there is no polarity. They are merging together, positive and negatives. All the negatives that have come from 3rd, 4th, 5th, and even lower 6th density. I'm talking about now the consciousness, the densities of consciousness. There is a merging of both. And in the same way, if two entities here manifested in this reality as humans have such an honesty, such a love for each other, and no blockages at all at the bottom energy centers, the emotional, the physical ones, then there is the possibility of these energies getting together and essentially just moving through the sacramental view of the universe. That's why tantric sex is so cool and is something that most of us may not even achieve. I'm not even sure if I'll be able to achieve it, but it would be awesome. I think there are moments where for some reason there is this, because the orgasmic sensation that you can get in sex can allow you to perhaps see this. Some people have talk about this mystical experiences through orgasm, and yeah, for sure there needs to be something there in the indigo ray. But then again, I'm just going off track and speculating here. But what I would love is for you to also make sense of this yourself with everything that I've been explaining and saying, and yeah, interpreting yourself. And leave me a comment if you have anything that you want to share, because I would love to know more about this. But we're almost done with this question or answer. And Ra says, no blockages may occur at these latter two levels due to the fact that if both entities are not ready for this energy, it is not visible, and neither transfer nor blockage may take place. It is as though the distributor were removed from a powerful engine. I am terrible at mechanics, so I'm not sure how this would work, but I don't know what a distributor is, to be honest. I didn't do my homework there. But I'm assuming that the engine wouldn't work if it doesn't have the distributor. So in the same way, if there's no blockages that can occur, because once you're in true love, then there is no blockage at the true expression of self. And I might retract myself into saying that it has to do with something of the orange ray. So this is something for more investigation, but definitely there is no blockage at the top level. Like I said, it is either visible or not, in the way that if everything's open here and here, then there's no way to have it blocked at this top. Maybe I'm reading this wrong, and what they're talking about is the latter two levels being the indigo and the violet, which there is no blockage for sure, I know, in the violet, which is our 7th chakra, the crown chakra. There's definitely no blockage or nothing there. There's just true expression or not. So maybe that's what they're referring there, and I'm just overthinking this. But in any case, there's no blockage there at those last two. And yeah, let's go to the last part where Ra says, this instrument was able, as an example of this working, to baffle the Orion group during tape blank, which is the LSD experience, as you call this substance, due to the fact that it effectively completely opened other self to third ray. We correct this instrument, it is growing low in vital energy, green ray energy, and partially open other self to blue ray interaction. So that's it. That's the last part. I just wanted to include it because it was part of the session. They're just talking about Carla was able to baffle the Orion group during her LSD experience. If you remember from other sessions, they were trying to get her to, through the experience, to have a polarization towards the negative, and it just didn't happen. So they just mentioned that, and you can see the correction that they had to do between third and fourth green ray because Carla's vital energies were running low. So that was the end of that question. At the end of the session, there was a final question at the end, which had to do with how long would the LSD effect last, and they said that the first intake was a month, and then the second one was about 2 months. They say lunar cycles, but in any case, that was the end of the session. So, conclusions. Now we can talk about our real sexual activity here on Earth and how we have been blocked in so many ways. You can see the power that exists, all the energy that we can transfer to each other if we were to have first compatibility, affinity, and then the opening of the energy centers all the way to the crown chakra. We would be using this in tremendous ways, as actually the Raw group did. If you're not familiar with the material, they specialize in sexual energy transfer in Venus, and that's why they polarize so well towards the positive, and they were able to get a huge harvest at the end of their cycles. And this is what we are missing here on planet Earth, because repressing sex has been something of it's almost like a norm right now, that sex is taboo. Sex is it's animal, sex is dirty, sex is all this kind of stuff that we see in our cultures. Every culture. There is I don't think I know of any culture that has a true opening, and it's probably not possible because of the so many distortions that we have already, and that need to be gradually educated through time for people to understand. Maybe the newer generations would be able to do it. Certainly not mine, the way I know it. We have been distorted in so many ways that we have all kind of perversions, and just the taboos in general are great. But the reason why this has been blocked is because of the potential that we have. And we're talking about this last half cycle that we've been in this last master cycle, talking about the last 12,000 years or so, or even more closely to our era, a couple of thousand years ago. With religion has been huge on this. Governments, of course, have criminalized sex. Even sex has been criminalized. I mean, we have so many things that I don't want to get into. So I just want to end in the positive way that we are sovereign beings to take back what is ours in terms of our energy, which is a natural energy that we have, be female or male. It's an energy that we can use ourselves. In masturbation is one of them, that if we could transcend this whole idea that is a taboo thing, that is private and has, well, private of course. I mean, there's so many things in society we still have to transcend, but just I'm talking about the mentality, like most, especially males, we grew up thinking that masturbation was something wrong, that we had to hide it because it was something taboo, it was dirty, we couldn't talk about this. And so we had to close our doors, and even the bathroom, it had to be really fast and quick because we were seeking that quick orgasm, because that's all we were seeking. Whereas there's an energy that you can play with, and otherwise sex wouldn't be sex if there wasn't this play of energy that we have. So we need to transcend from that. We need to educate ourselves to what this energy is. And with education, I don't mean reading, even though it's a good thing, but practice. Know your body, know yourself. This will make you understand even more your sexual energy, and it would make so many things in your life much better as you learn it. It's your own body, you can do whatever it wants with it, and you have that power, as opposed to just guiding yourself with what obviously is out there, which we don't agree in to begin with, but it's important to keep that. So if anything, that's my big conclusion. Reclaim your body, reclaim your own energy. And it doesn't matter if you're a male or a female, just reclaim that energy and use it, even if it sounds strange and weird at the beginning. You don't have to do it, but it's an energy that is there if you want to. So I'm just making it available to you in the way that is the way it is, in the fundamental level of energy as it is. So that's all I got. You can see why I wanted to make a different video in talking about this, because it's a large topic and I went on for half hour, a little over half hour. So I hope this makes sense. There's more to talk about sexual energy transfer. I've seen other interpretations out there that don't really resonate with me in terms of how this happens, and even I myself would need to get a little bit more into the last 2 or 3 chakras as we talked about, and if anything I will update. So this is it. That's all I got. Thank you again for watching. I hope you liked this part. That was the last part of session 26. We're done with book 1, and now we can get into book 2, starting with session 27. I'll see you then.